And the specific heat of materials and water has a big effect on our climate. So, for example, the climate in a desert area is much different than that in a coast area. Here's my little picture of a desert, and then coast will make it next to the beach, right? So, in deserts, they generally experience large temperature changes. It gets very hot during the day, and at night, it can get really, really cold. Whereas the coast usually has small temperature changes. The difference between the hottest part of the day and actually the coolest part of the day actually isn't that significant. So, for example, we live around Joshua Tree, which is pretty much a desert. And we'll take a look at 11/6/2022 that day. And then we also live near San Diego. And so, for example, on 11/6/2022, Joshua Tree will experience a high of 70 degrees Fahrenheit and then a low of 47 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a delta T of about 23 degrees Fahrenheit, while San Diego will experience a high of 67 degrees Fahrenheit and a low of 57 degrees Fahrenheit, which is only a delta T of about 10 degrees Fahrenheit. So why the big difference in how much the temperature changes when these two locations are relatively close to one another? Well, it all has to do with how much water is in the air, or at least partially has to do with how much water is in the air. So the desert has very little water in the air, while the coast has a lot. And as we just learned, water has a very high specific heat. So it can absorb a lot of energy and not change the temperature, right? So near San Diego, there's a lot of water in the air. During that day, the water is absorbing that energy and it's not changing its temperature that much. And then during the night, it's releasing that energy, but again, it's the temperature isn't changing too much. Whereas in the middle of the desert, there's not as much water in the air. And so when you add or take away energy, we see large increases in temperature.